G'day mates, in today's video I want to kick off talking about why solo cash cups are cancelled for the next 6 weeks roughly, why today was the first and last solo cash cup until FNCS is over. Also, we just got news on who Savage's new duo is. It is no longer Andretta and it is a very big name. If you're a Savage fan, you're going to want to stick around to hear this because it is incredibly exciting for their FNCS. I also want to talk about the upcoming map changes because we have 3 PYs that are about to be heavily changed, and I believe they will actually be changed mid FNCS, and teams and players who are aware of this, who are competing, could snag a really good drop spot before it even appears on the map. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's just jump into it. Let's kick off talking about the cash cups because today we had our first solo cash cups of the season, and I want to talk about why it is the last solo cash cup for pretty much the next month and a half. If you guys didn't realize, there is actually a gigantic gap between this solo cash cup and the next one, and that is because there is no solo cash cups during FNCS. And you might think that's still a really long time even for FNCS, and it is because there's a 2-week break in the middle of FNCS. So if you guys didn't know, FNCS is kicking off next weekend. We have 3 qualifiers for FNCS taking place across 2 weeks. Then we have semi-finals. Then we have a 2-week break where I believe Epic is going on holidays. Then we have grand finals. Then solo cash cups come back. So if you didn't get Champions Division on PC in the last 4 days since Arena Points reset, you're missing the only solo cash cup for pretty much the first 2 months of the season. And this has been pretty brutal and has quite a few people upset. A lot of people, myself included, were expecting them to drop it down to Contenders League and above, which they did for console, but they didn't do it for PC. If you guys haven't seen, there are some huge changes to how hard it is to get Champions Division this season as well. It is by far the hardest it's ever been, including making hype points only 5 in Champions League. You're only getting 5 points per elimination in Champions League. Meanwhile, once you get to Division 9 and 10, you have a 70 bus fare. So again, when you're trying to get up to Champions Division, you are getting hit with 50 and 60 bus fares Division 7 and 8, and only getting 5 per elimination, which means unless you're stacking duos and trios with your best friends who are very good at the game, it is really hard to get Champions League. Pretty much all the pros were just triple stacking trios, and a lot of them even camping their way to champs, because if you W keyed too much and went down, you would lose points per game because of how big the bus fare was. It was pretty brutal for a lot of people. It did lead to the games being really stacked today. The solo cash cup games were incredible. But before I talk about that, I do want to talk about some of the funnier moments and some of the dramas of getting a Champions Division. I've never really seen people like just going crazy to get Champions Division this badly. Firstly, we had Rich Homie Quinn, who made a clip pointing out how people were literally trading reboots to trade eliminations to get points to get Champions Division.
If you guys do not know how desperate people are to get champs right now, people are actually trading reboots for kills. As you can see, this 4-0 guy is not on the same team as this Alex guy, so they're actually teaming. And this guy reboots, and then when he reboots, he lets him spawn, and then the other guy kills him for points. So this is what people are doing to get champs right now. The good news is they ended up getting fought, and they ended up getting banned during this build fight, both of them. So I don't know. Definitely interesting. Should evaporate any second now. There they are. They're gone. GG's.
Not only that, if you wanted to get points yourself, there's a good chance, like Refsguard, you're running into players like this, who are dropping, getting DMRs, and then shooting them at the fire rate of SMGs through the sky and killing the entire lobby in about 10 seconds.
Altså.
Mate, det er fordi, du skal forstå ham.
Men hvad sker der i dag? Nice movement i luften, gutter. Altså, I smider igen.
Smæk ham,
Jeg smækker ham. Han er i bygget.
Ja, det er jo 1000 meter, mate.
Oh my god. Hvad der sker?
So all across the board, it was a pretty rough time trying to get Champions Division. You probably saw some of the big streamers like Clicks not even have Champions Division in time for the Cash Cup. You had Scoped, who was grinding all day, who pretty much, I think, did like an 8-hour stream just to get champs, got champs, played 1 game of the West Cash Cup and had to end because he was so incredibly fried. It was pretty brutal to see, but this is kind of what we were asking for. Like, a lot of people wanted Arena to be more difficult. They didn't want it to be so easy, but the issue a lot of people are saying, I'm not playing Arena myself, myself is it's not difficult in the right way. Everyone who is playing feels like they're sweating G Fuel out of their veins and they're absolute demigods at fighting, but none of them are really playing for endgame anyway. And then if you're trying to get points, you're pretty much just seeing it as a grind to get Champions Division and then stopping the second you get there, because there's not really any reward to get more points right now. If the lobbies were this stacked and there was a really sick reward, I feel like a lot of people would get behind grinding this out and starts getting into it more. Maybe camping wouldn't be such a big issue, but when everyone is still seeing champs as just pretty much like oh, I've got 7,500 points, thank God, now I can stop playing. They're not really going for anything past that. It just feels like a bit of a chore. So it's pretty interesting to see. It did make the solo cash cup games today super stacked. Like I said, they were really, really fun to watch. This meta, while I know it's not a lot of people's favorites, it does feel like a bit of a copy and paste of previous seasons. A lot of people not liking the grapple glove. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the grapple glove. I think without it in the game right now, it would be far more boring. And I do have to commend Epic for the grapple glove being a great example of what I've talked about. Instead of just vaulting items like the Spider-Man glove that was a little bit too strong, reworking it. It has been heavily nerfed. It does only have 10 uses, which the Spider-Man did towards the end, but the biggest nerf comes down to how slow it is. It's just not as fast as the Spider-Man. You don't gain as much momentum. It's much slower swing. And also you can't shoot while midair. You have to land first, meaning you can't use it as aggressively. You got to be a lot smarter on how you use it. A lot of pros still saying it's too OP, and I do know it's very, very strong. It's pretty much the go-to item in solos, but when it spawns in a guaranteed location anyone can get, I enjoyed watching the games today with it in solos much more than if it wasn't in the game at all. So the games were very, very stacked today, and honestly, I would really love it if cash cups were always this stacked. They never will be as more people start to get Champions Division now, but with Champions Division harder to get to, if there was another solo cash cup next week, they didn't have this gigantic break until the next one, the games would be pretty stacked again. They were really, really good to watch. This was only opens, and we do have a one-day break until the solo cash cup finals now. You might be confused what's going on with the cash cups. Why are there solos on today? Why were the duos on a few days ago? Why were the duo cups earlier and the solo cups later? It's all really confusing. It's like I said, because they aren't running any solo cash cups during FNCS, once FNCS starts, when the duo cash cups were on, which was on the weekend this week, they're gonna move into the place of the solo cash cups, and then they're gonna run at the regular time that you're used to, but instead of being solo cash cups, it's duo cash cups. But that's not from next week onwards, because next week the cash cups are still on the weekend, but then the week after, then they're gonna be, it's all really confusing. Honestly, just check the compete tab or check Fortnite tracker. I know it's my job to let you guys know what's going on, but honestly, I feel like I'm gonna confuse you more than I'm gonna help you by telling you what's going on. It's just really confusing. All you have to know, no solo cash cups till FNCS is over, and duos is then gonna now move to the Monday and Wednesday time slot. Next up, we had another big team swap. We were talking about this recently with Benji Fishy announcing his retirement, what was going to happen with Savage, and it looked like, obviously, Benji Fishy let Savage know he was going to be retiring a bit earlier because Savage was gearing up to play with Andretta, but that's changed. Andretta made a tweet saying he was looking for a duo, and a lot of people really confused. Did Andretta drop Savage? Did Savage drop Andretta? What happened? Once Savage went live, though, and if you do !duo in his chat, it becomes very clear what's happened. Savage is going to be playing the duo cash cups and FNCS, it looks like, with Hen, and that's a big one right now. We have Savage again going from Benji, which big name, but Benji and Savage hasn't really been performing that well in the last few seasons. They've been right on the edge of qualifying quite a lot, to playing with the duo FNCS winner Hen. That could be really, really exciting. I did talk about why Hen and Queasy split up, as Hen can be a little bit hyperactive, and maybe that does, that got a little bit tiring for Queasy. They didn't have the craziest performance, but it was still decent. But seeing Mr. Savage play with Hen, that is an incredibly scary duo. If Savage can get Hen in line, and Hen can kind of bolster that confidence of Savage to take some aggressive fights and really push forward, they could be a really, really good duo. Will they last until FNCS starts? I don't know, but remember, FNCS is literally around the corner. Does this mean we're going to see Hen on stream with Savage? Is Savage going to stream FNCS like him and Benji always did, or is he going to step away from streaming? The fact that Hen has been streaming the solo cash cups and the cash cups in general is a really good sign that it looks like we will be potentially watching Hen play with Savage on the stream for FNCS, which I am incredibly, incredibly excited for. With FNCS right around the corner, I do want to say it's a good time to start paying attention to the leakers about what's going on with upcoming map changes. So we had Tory tweet out, next POIs to be changed are Butterbarn, Condo Canyon, and Sleepy Sounds. The same thing will happen with these POIs as what happened with Logjam. These POIs will all have the same themes: Pirate, Neo, Roman, and Atlantis Atlantis. So now we are going to have 4 POIs on the map that switch between 4 different modes at them, and this is going to have a very, very big impact on FNCS and competitive in general. Not only does it mean those 4 POIs are going to change throughout FNCS, they're going to be constantly changing each time. So players and teams who drop there, who have good drop knowledge, are going to perform far better. Now, are they going to have more or less loot than their old POIs? I have to imagine, based on logjam, they're probably going to have equal to more loot. The biggest issue with these drop spots usually is metal. They usually have a little bit of metal with some of the buildings, some of the extra spots, but like some of those POIs that do have the trees and they kind of get that wooded aesthetic, they don't have a lot of guaranteed metal, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But those are going to be really, really big map changes to look out 3 or 4 throughout the season. And when FNCS is now taking place over the next roughly 2 months, because like I said, there is that 2-week break between semifinals and finals, these are almost definitely going to change during that time. Alright guys, that does it for another video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please chuck a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.